industry is changing. Women make up 29.6% of registered architects, but in the study of architecture, 50% of students are women and 50% of them are male. And that's information taken from the ACSE, Association of Collegiate Schools of Architecture. But if you ask me, I would actually argue that there are more women studying architecture than guys in our class. But I mean, you all can.
That is true.
That's, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's mainly women. Nothing wrong with that, by the way. Go women. Go y'all. Go us. But welcome to the third episode of ARCHITORTURE, the podcast. Joan of ARCHITECture. That's that. So in today's episode, in the spirit of Women's History Month, we're going to take a look at gender ratios within architecture and discuss how we see our potential future within the industry. If we want to go into it or not, you guys, you're free to do as you want because you're a woman. All right.
Period.
But we're going to talk about that and what it looks like, our future within the industry as current women studying architecture. But before we begin, I am so excited to introduce to you the guest for today's episode. So go ahead and tell me your name and what year you're in.
My name's Alyssa. I'm a second year.
My name is Roxanne. I'm also a second year.
I'm Emily. I'm a fifth year.
And I'm Janae, and I'm also a second year. So we're going to begin like we begin all the other episodes. So please tell me, why did you decide to study architecture?
Well, I knew I wanted to do something that was like creative, but also I didn't want to go to like art school. Like I wanted to be able to get a job after school. And I also wanted something that would like stimulate like the other part of my brain, but that wasn't too like math and science heavy to where it'd be too much for me.
It's interesting you say that because a lot of people are confused. Not confused. A lot of people are like, "Oh no, you did architecture. That's so much math." But
I think it's less math now than it used to be.
yeah, I mean, yeah, the math is more of like in our like structures when we did
Yeah, I
physics.
think like 15 years ago it was a lot more like engineering heavy.
Oh,
Would you say now it's more design based?
Yeah.
I think it's also something very like USC. Like we're, as a school, just I feel like as a school, it's a lot more focused on design, while like, I don't know, maybe in other schools, it's a lot more focused on like the technical aspect of just knowing how to design a structurally sound building, Anyways, I don't know. I always enjoyed like model making and just building stuff. I was really, and I'm still really into Legos, and I feel like that's something that was like a sign early on. Yeah, I think that's just the main thing. It's combining a lot of things that I enjoy, so like the model making and drawing, just being like very creative, and yeah.
So when I was like 6, I drew like, I would say now it's more of a 2D section of a triangle house, like triangle and like, I drew 2 floors, and then I asked my friends, where do you want to live in my house? But I didn't know that was called architecture. And then high school came, and then I was doing my IB art portfolio, and then I was doing portraits all the way up until high school, and then they were like, oh, what do you want to do in college? And I was like, let me look into architecture. And they're like, your portfolio should be more abstract than this. So that was the beginning of my route. Yeah.
nice. And like I've said many times, like many of the people on the podcast, I got into architecture because as a child I never had a Barbie dream house. I always wanted one, and I took Legos and books and everything,
house.
right?
Okay.
And I used to make my own Barbie dream house, and that turned into me really liking architecture. And now here I am.
There you
now, the one thing the guests on the podcast right now have in common, not me, of course. Well, not of course, sorry. Not me, but perhaps maybe after this episode I might be more inclined to join. But everybody here were at a time or currently are in SAWA. Now, do one of you want to explain what that is, what that stands for?
Should I? Okay. SAWA is the Student Association of Women Architects, and it's basically dedicated to just strengthening the idea of women in architecture. And we try to have panels or activities or events that really showcase firms, or not even necessarily architecture, but just like encouraging like the showcasing of women in all fields, especially architecture.
I think part of it is also somewhat like community building, like finding people with similar interests, or just like other women that you can like kind of go to and like look to for help or inspiration.
So yeah, it's great that you guys are, part of the movement, women empowerment in architecture, because we need it. Like we mentioned a little bit before we even started recording, was, the figureheads, a lot of the figureheads within architecture, except for like Zaha Hadid, who's like the only one I can name off the top of my head right now, are all men. So we need a lot more women representation.
Denise Scott Brown.
Who?
Denise Scott Brown, learning from Las Vegas.
Yes, bring her up.
I feel
But she did that with a man, so.
But there's always been a gender gap within architecture, as like many industries. But right now we are seeing quite a different change. So instead of seeing a lot of males in architecture, we see a lot of women. And so the architecture space is becoming more dominated by women, and this is a case of what they call gender flight. So I watched this TikTok video from this creator named Design with Bean. She's a woman in architecture, and she described the phenomenon of gender flight. She did really well, but essentially gender flight is when women move into spaces that were predominantly male, and like vice versa, when one specific gender moves into a profession versus the other gender is more inclined to move out. So in the context of architecture, as more women are moving into the profession, you see more men moving out of the profession. And a good example of that is in interior design. So interior design was a male-dominated field, but right now it's considered homemaking or a hobby, because now women moved into the space and men moved out. And so with that, now that they say it's 50% women studying architecture and male, but really it's looking more like 60-40 if you ask me. But because of that, I'm interested to get your views on how you think this is going to really impact the way we look at architecture and design now, the world in general. If the world starts seeing more women in architecture, or more women than male in architecture, how do you think that's going to shift the way they see the industry, design? Because architecture is pretty powerful.
Well, I think first, like here it seems like more women than men are in architecture school, but I feel like if you looked at places that are like in the South or like not Southern California, then it would be a lot different. Like I feel like they're still like very male dominated in places like that. And I also think that part of the reason that like this gender flight happens is because men like want to do architecture because they want to be revolutionaries and do something women can't do with their like feeble minds. But then whenever women start doing it, they're like, this doesn't interest me anymore. I'm gonna go like switch to engineering or something, because they
which should
switch
be
to
another
things
topic
they
that we
perceive
should
as harder. And then like they in turn like devalue something that they would have otherwise had interest in because it's a female dominated space. But I think that if more women become architects, it's going to have a very good impact on the way things are built and the people they're built for. Like I think there's going to be more consideration for like how to make a space for certain like communities and demographics.
All right. Well, do you say that? Well, but the structure of architecture right now, I mean, our curriculum is set by an accredited board, and our professors are right now. I mean, looking at our school right now, right? The people at the top within architecture, well, our dean is male. I was thinking of our.
It's a slightly debatable topic, yeah.
No, do you want to go ahead?
Some of the, I was gonna say, like, yes, our past 3 deans at least have been male. But most of the, I want to say, who are like in the office up there are female.
Yeah.
Half, at least more than half, or like people that you reach out to. Oh, I need help on like sharing this with the rest of the school that's owned by someone who is female identified, or oh, I need to like get this space for this room at certain time. That's all managed by, you know, people like female.
So
managers.
well, sorry, Roxanne, did you want to say something before?
No, you're yeah.
Okay, so what I was, wondering and pondering, right? Like design would be, and this is her Roman Empire. She said thinking about this genderify, right? And I really sat down and thought about it. Thinking of like interior design, which I feel like all those fields are, very commendable. Even like nursing, right? So men were all nurses, and then as we moved into it, they're like, oh, you're a nurse, like, oh, that's easy, oh, you didn't really have to do much, although that's not the case. And so architecture, like I said, is pretty powerful. We're building the foundation of, well, almost anything. You have infrastructure, our cities where we live, where everything happens, it's all architecture, right? And is it possible for people to take that less seriously just because women build it? So say the industry continues to move where there are more women and less men. Do you think it could ever really get to a point where we're taken less seriously as designer, like what has happened in fields like nursing and interior design?
That's like so interesting, but I don't know. I feel like it's
I know it's like something like, can you like, you really just sitting there and think about it? It's like
because okay, I feel like architecture is a combination of a bunch of things. It's a combination of interior design and structural engineering in general.
Like, you know a little bit of everything. That's what they tell you. Yeah.
I don't think it's something that could be like men won't want to be a part of it anymore. But I think it's a lot about recognition, because now we're getting a lot of more wanting to recognize women that are successful or that are in the field in general. And even in the past, I guess that's not something that was done. Like, you don't hear about women architects in the past.
Yeah, you hear about their husbands.
You hear about their husbands, and like they may have been doing important things, but we didn't know about it. But now we do. So I think it's something like women in architecture might have been something that's always existed, but now they're just becoming more recognized or prominent.
Some of like the topics that were brought up, if you look up like female architects, like articles often start with, where are the female architects? But in reality, it's like, they are here, you're just not celebrating them.
Exactly.
So let's talk about what they have done that still contribute to the society, that we just don't recognize just yet. Yeah.
Okay, one more thing. Do you all aspire to work in architecture? I mean, you may study architecture. That doesn't mean that you have to, become an architect. But you personally, do you aspire to be in architect, work in a firm?
Corporate firm.
I think I want to do like, my goal eventually is nonprofit, like sustainable low-income housing.
It's a housing crisis. We could talk about that.
It's the next episode.
Next episode.
Are you in A+A, our architecture and advocacy organization?
I am. Yeah.
Oh,
I
yes.
see you there.
I can see it.
I can see you there too.
I didn't know this was the A+A podcast
Oh,
episode.
we're plugging it in.
My bad. Well, you two, do you see yourself working in architecture as an architect, licensed architect?
I for sure do, and I want to try like working like at a small firm, trying to work at a big firm, and then maybe start my own thing. But I don't know, lately I've been like going down the professor route, which is like crazy.
Ooh.
But
Masters.
Don't worry, I definitely
PhD.
I want to be a professor.
You'd be such a good professor.
I think,
Yes.
it's not. Thank you. But yeah. So in architecture, right? We're gonna talk about licensure and also pay. So firstly, within architecture, for every dollar a man makes, a woman makes about 85 cents. So 85% of a man's salary is what a woman is getting in architecture. Right, it's wrong. But then also in architecture, architects with a license make more than architects without a license. So now the disparity that we're seeing with less women being licensed architect is that the licensing board makes it more difficult for women to actually gain their license. So in a field where, I mean, as of right now, even though there's more women in architecture, doesn't necessarily mean that that's how it's going to end up eventually. But say we're following the trend of those studying in architecture going on to work in architecture, and right now there being more women in the study than men. If we're seeing that it's harder for women to get licensed, right, and they're getting paid less, does that mean that eventually the entire pay for architecture for women is just going to go down and lower? Or what do you think? That's also my Roman Empire, just going down the spiral of thinking, if it continues to go in this trend, how is that going to affect, you know, all the aspects of architecture that we're looking forward to in the future?
I mean, let's talk about why they're not making as much. Either it is the company, say at a larger size company where you get like, you have to sign up for like PTO or something like that. And as a woman in the field, you engage things like family, having children, things that what they said would set you back. But in reality, it's just like normal things that you get a break on. Like, but why should you get like, so I know like not in the architecture field, but in some other fields in the past where if you're like, maybe not even in the US, where if you're pregnant and you need to like take months off, you often end up getting fired or moved, like transferred. So why should that be happening? Yeah, that's a deeper topic to get into.
It is. But I mean, you've had a lot of experience so far working.
A lot is limited.
Well, you've had much more than me. I haven't worked in a firm as yet. Have you worked in an architecture firm?
No, but I was going to add to her point. I feel like not even just in architecture firms, I feel like any professional setting, women are expected to choose whether or not they're going to be homemakers or be a professional. And a lot of time, like, there's not room for both. Like, it's you either have to choose to be a mom or you choose to be a CEO or do something that's meaningful for your career. And I think that's one of the big changes we're seeing, but I still think that there's like a very long way to go, because I feel like a lot of super high up professional women don't have children and don't have time for them.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, I think that's a very, like, that's a very serious topic as well, because I mean, personally, I have big aspirations for, you know, my career within architecture, but I also want a family and I want children. Me personally, I want 4 children.
Oh.
That's
You
like,
shouldn't have to choose between your job and your kids.
right?
She wants
4 children
both.
is like
Yes.
what? That's like a,
That's kind of a lot.
yeah. But depending on how you time it out, that's like 10 years of being pregnant.
That's horrible.
I mean, listen.
Unless you have twins.
Yeah, like you kill 2 years.
Or
Two birds.
just have quadruplets.
Yeah.
One
Actually, you
year
know
being
what?
pregnant.
That's what I'm going to do. I'm
4
actually going to
kids.
just decide to have 4 children at once, and that's going to,
Well, yeah, you're a woman. You can do whatever you want.
period. That is what I'm talking about. But yeah, genuinely, like, how I feel like when I like envision my life in the future, I see a route with family, then I see a route as a professional, and it's hard to see the in between with having that like meshing. I mean, part of it, I feel like the industry and how things are structured with or against women can help, but then also it's difficult. You can't really raise a child in an office, can you? So, I mean, have you ever really thought about what your life looks like in the future involving your career as well? Or actually, you know what? Retract that. I think women's place should be in the kitchen, in the house.
agree.
I don't think I should. I'm just kidding.
Going off the rails. This is actually the anti-women in architecture podcast now.
But I mean, that's a genuine concern or thought that I have had. I don't know if perhaps you all don't ever dream of having children, and it's fine. But have you ever thought about that, perhaps, or how do you expect that to merge or mesh with?
I feel like
Your
whenever I
aspirations.
think about it, because I definitely like want kids, I want a family, and I'm from the South, and so I feel like there, it's still very much like you're expected to have kids, and like you're expected to take care of them until they go to school, and then maybe you get a job, maybe you don't. Like I feel like it's very like old school in some places still, and I feel like for me, every time I think about like what my future family life looks like you said, it's like kind of hard to merge that with my professional life, because especially in architecture there's like this very like work hard mentality where it's like your entire life is dedicated to it, and I feel like that's changing as well, but I feel like I definitely worry about it at times.
Yeah, that work-life balance. They're gonna have to change that around. Any thoughts, Roxanne? Or
No, it's just crazy that, I mean, not to like say it this way, but like I bet a man doesn't have to plan out his whole life. You know what I'm saying? Like he can just
It's because he doesn't have to take care of his own kids.
Ooh.
right, like imagine like there's no getting away from it. Like if you wanna, you always have to like plan everything out. It's like why should I have to do that?
Right. I wonder
know?
what the other guys in our studio are thinking right now. Not a thought about my future and kids. And I'm kidding. They could be. Listen, I don't know.
They're thinking about playing Fortnite later.
Oh, they are. Most like Brawl Stars,
Brawl Stars.
Okay. But Emily, you've had more time than us so far to actually work within the field through your internships. What is the dynamic like in the office? I'm assuming that perhaps it's more male. I don't know, but I'd love some insight.
So let's see. Let me choose one of the two firms that I want to talk about. Last summer, I worked for a firm in downtown, not naming them. I would say, I think it's one of the better, like, say, corporate style. Like, we know, we're not going to name drop firms maybe here, but some of the firms that you read their name and you just know, like, oh, it's a bunch of acronyms, but it just sounds very corporative.
Oh,
Like,
3 letters.
the way, the 3 letters. I do work for 3 letters.
That's my
But the office life is very fun. But I also think a reason that being it's managed by female like workers, like in the office, where they're like, oh, let's plan this. They have a committee team that I'm not part of, but my we had this like buddy system where I'm paired with another female architect, like designer in the same sector, and she's part of the designing like the committee of like let's plan parties, let's plan whatever, right? I do hear like involvements from all genders, but it was mostly like the women that are making this like fun. Like they're like, oh, let's like plan it all the way through. Like let's plan a date. Let's like think about the themes and whatnot. And I was just like, this is so fun. Like I had an ice cream party with them, and I was like, this is so fun. I'm just like enjoying it. Like while I'm like working under like male like I would say they're the top leaders at my sector who are like I would say over 50 years old. Like but the thing is, I want to say it's quite equal, like at least my experience so far. But I know there's a lot of male-dominated firms where it's like they don't have higher up positions where you see are female-related. So
They heard coming like, bro, what are you
like,
doing? You're just like,
bro,
oh,
how's
God.
that 50-level tower going on? You know? So yeah.
No, but that's
Wrong.
good. Name drop.
Shout out.
Right, shout out him. But I mean, I'm happy that I think it was a perfect example because women build societies, women shape things, women, really make this what it is. And I think one thing that women bring to every industry is it's more thought out, it's more considerate in different ways. I'm not saying that men don't do anything. I think they do a great job too.
Good job.
Some ways, yeah.
Shout out to the men.
Shut up.
But women are very necessary within workspaces. And so now I'm interested to see, we talked a little bit about, we questioned more like what is it going to look like if there are more women in the field, more in a, not negative way, but like changes. But I want to look at positive changes. You mentioned a few, Alyssa, but what do you see women doing for the future of architecture in our curriculum, how would that change with a woman's perspective? The buildings we build, the spaces, how do you think that would change just with women? Not saying that men shouldn't be included. Go you all. You should be included in everything. Equality, equity, right? But
But it will be the Women's Month, so
Right.
let us celebrate, you know?
But right, with more women moving into profession and moving into higher positions, how is that changing the buildings we're looking at, the spaces, maybe life in general? Are we happier? Are we sadder? We're happier, of course, but
I mean, I think one of the most important things we're in college is like attending all these speaker events. Last week, this is not even at the School of Architecture, because we've had a lot of great like female identified like leaders and speakers who just come and talk about their research and work. I met this, but this is at my minor. Where's Ivan and Young? Ivan and Young.
are you minor?
Yeah.
What do you do?
Multimedia design.
Ooh, okay.
But we can talk about that later. It's because it's also a good topic to bring up. Is like what else other than architecture, right? Like Sawa used to have a section that's called inviting in female speakers who are not architects, but they are designing in their own ways. But just to go back to multimedia, I met this lady last week. She makes, I want to say in her words, it's like VR or like virtual experiences, but in her like portfolio, it's mostly album art covers for female artists like Lizzo, or there was one iconic one with Normani and
Normandi?
Normani.
Normani?
Oh my God! Cut that out.
Norman.
Normani.
Oh, no.
And you know, like Megan Thee Stallion. You know, just to name a couple of like those big names up there. Like she does these. She talked about how. Yeah, she talked about how. Yeah. Oh my God! Cut that out.
I'm so sorry.
Let's start over.
But you're doing so good. Please continue.
Anyways, like I think her thing, like even more than what we're talking about as a podcast, like she put her entire like school life and her work life into this, like finding the female power in whatever she does. Like she is a one person like designing team so far.
Ooh.
But she's made like all these super cool things, and she bonded with all these artists who were like also kind of fighting against their own like upper like team members who are not against the idea of like, oh, we should not have their entire body exposed for this like virtual art thing that you're putting on them. Like we will not allow you to take photos. But both the artist and the lady designer, like they're fighting against like these like upper powers that are looked down upon in the past, which I thought was like so cool. Like I was obsessed with her. I reached out to her on LinkedIn afterwards and I was like, hi, it's me. So yeah, I hope we see that more here.
Yeah.
We've heard a lot of cool stuff going on at the school as well, so hope to see how it goes.
I think, wait, who is it who came in? It was last semester. The woman who made on the firm for the Obama Center.
Billy Shen.
Yeah.
TSIEN.
Yeah. She
I was
came in.
there. Yeah, did you go?
Yeah. Oh yeah. That was really
we
good.
were obsessed.
But yeah, it's very important to have like see that. I'm happy that Salva is doing that and bringing in more women speakers, because I mean, listen, it's important, and also we're also figuring out in a way what we really want to do with architecture, with our lives in general, and so navigating these spaces, it helps to see women doing it in general. And now we mentioned, like before we began, the father of architecture. Who are the fathers of architecture in the first place?
Like how like Frank Lloyd Wright is like father of modern architecture.
Okay, yeah.
And then like Frank Gehry, like Corbusier.
Le Corbusier.
Shout out. Rest in peace.
Well then, who are the mothers in architecture? I know that's really the hard part, because why? Well, we know why there aren't many famous women in architecture.
Or even if you name one, it's like she would be very recently. Like,
Yeah, even I feel like
you can say Zaha Hadid, but compared to the timelines of the
Yeah.
other more popular choices, like she's more on the newer contemporary side, you know.
I also feel like even like Denise Scott Brown, like the work that she's most well known for, she did with, what's his name?
I'm just
Lady
trying.
from Las Vegas.
I want to say Venturi, but I don't know.
Oh, was it Robert Venturi?
No, probably not. Just like name dropping.
Quick
but I don't
Google.
know.
Name dropping random men.
No, like he's a guy.
Or I mean, think about like Billie Shin that you mentioned.
Mhm.
Her firm with
Oh, it was
her
Robert
husband.
Venturi.
Yeah. Okay. There you go. Billy's firm with her husband is his name first, and then her name, and then architects.
Oh wait, I didn't even realize it was a firm with her husband.
It's a husband-wife duo, for a while. So, but you know, she's out here making her name known. So, props to
And I
her.
feel like you see it a lot where it's like all of these like famous men architecture, like the fathers of architecture. Half the time, most of the design work that they were doing was being done by their female intern or their wife or like any woman besides them, and they put their name on it, and then they get that
So
recognition.
true.
And even if they did do it, like there's so many moments of like women actually having a lot more to do with where architecture is now than people give them credit for,
Right.
just because they're not named.
I think of what Charles and Ray Eames. Well, she wasn't an architect, right? She's more of a
Good
designer.
I
designer.
did think they were brothers until just before we started this.
Ray is
Shocker.
Ray's the wife. Charles Eames, Ray Eames, right? But it used to, like, it took a while for even her to be mentioned before and recognized for her work. Like, I feel like now she's recognized because now we're trying to change
She also
things.
did more than just design. Like she was a lot of like more of a researcher too.
Yeah.
So many things that she did that were not mentioned or under her name specifically. So
But yeah, I mean, as we've seen, a lot of times to really get known, to get yourself out there, women have to work a lot harder, do a lot more. Well, we already do a lot more to really make ourselves known. So, I mean, hopefully, as with more women in architecture, I'm hoping that, you know, maybe that part gets easier, but still, I hope that we aren't being diminished for the work that we're doing. We're still being credited as more women move into the space. But before we get to our last thing, just once again, thinking of our curriculum and our structure, I mean, we can't say that they were created by males, but it can be noted that a lot of the ways that we approach, the way that we're learning about architecture has been done based on the systems or whatever put in by men. And so what are little things within your studies do you think might change as more women move into space, and perhaps as we start thinking more about how we should study architecture? What is a woman's touch? I feel like that's not. I feel like that's
Well, I also feel
not.
like most of the professors here for studios, I
Mhm.
feel like it's still like male dominated.
You know?
Like most of, I've had like 2 out of, how many studios have we had?
3,
Four.
5.
4.
5.
We had 2.
Aren't you guys second years?
4. This is a 4.
Oh.
Oh,
Wait,
to
oh,
yeah,
105.
you had 2.
105.
Okay, right.
Yeah, so it's 5. So 2 out of 5 of my professors have been women. But even then, like, there's like usually like 1 woman per like studio group. Actually, this semester we have a lot. There's 3.
Well,
Oh, no, it's 3. So,
They're just still less than half.
yeah.
I guess, I mean, why do I feel like we have a lot? Well, no, I guess, wait, are our professors 50-50 woman male, or still, it really is still more male?
Depends on if you want to go into people of color, female architects.
I mean, if you want to
can
talk about the intersectionality.
We could talk about that with
yeah.
professors because 5 years here, studio professors. Let's talk studio professors. I've only had, like, on my own section. I know there's definitely more like combinations of everyone else in the other studios, but I have only had, if I can bring it up in my head, I have had 1 studio professor for the actual 6 unit, 1 for the 105 that you guys took, and then the rest have been all male, whether it is by topic choice. But the thing is, I'm saying that because that's what either I chose that professor based on their topic or it was assigned to me. But if you look at like the list of professors every semester for me so far, I think it's been okay, like 50-50, I want to say. There was one point where there were more female professors than male professors for our semester that semester. But you do see history professors being female, even though white females, but that is still new.
Professor was a male.
Oh, things have changed. Sorry. Let's see. There's a lighting course, the acoustics
Structures.
course,
Structures too.
taught by a lighting designer who is female.
These are electives, right?
These are electives.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so you guys will get into that. Let's see, what other electives are there? Some of more on the topic, like history electives I also chose a female architect. Let's see. I think it's been okay.
Yeah.
School, I think things have changed.
Right.
My first semester here, definitely not as, it didn't have that many choices. Or we didn't see too many that were, oh, like you've done something extraordinary. Or I don't know. Things like that. How do you feel?
Yeah, well, this year in general, I've had, but for both of the studios I've had female.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had female studio professors, and then my freshman year, I had 2 male professors and then 1 female for 205. So kind of 50-50 right now. I would say that like a perspective that's not necessarily different. I think I see it more with women, and then also what is the word? Not white professors in general, not necessarily just women, but they push to have like deeper meaning within work. A lot of the professors that are perhaps white male, I feel like they're a lot more technical. They're like, okay, how is this actually going to stand? Think this through versus. Yeah.
No name
You're
calling.
going to that now, aren't you?
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, I understand because I had
Yeah.
your professor. Not to name drop.
I hope he's watching this.
Wow.
Love you.
No.
But versus the professors I have, they're more pushing me to think of the impact of it, or how is this really gonna, evoke emotion, or what's the bigger story behind it other than just the form of it.
Yeah, I felt that a lot last year.
Yeah. Oh, we definitely.
At your critiques, how are the jurors like ratio wise? Because sometimes based on who your professor is, the people that they invite in could also impact a lot on your design. I think the female speakers that they invite in truly help me more than the male speaker, because sometimes they would only focus on like certain things, like, oh, it looks great, like structure works.
Maybe also they kind of better understand what your intentions are.
Yeah.
So they can
Yeah.
kind of shape their advice around that.
Yeah, last semester, the new dean came to watch my pinup.
Oh,
and he was
nice.
like, this is so great. I love this so much. Like, it looks so fun there. And I was like, thank you so much, but like. So,
I mean, I don't think he can say too many bad things, like
That's
mean
true.
things. Yeah, he just
He
got
was very
here
nice.
day one at his job.
Shout out to him.
Shout out.
But I do feel like most of the time, most of the jurors are male. Even like freshman year, I had a professor who was a woman. She brought in like outside,
One female, like 3.
but she would bring in like outside jurors, and they were like usually men, which I found interesting.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Our final review last semester. Oh yeah, it was a guy.
It was 2 guys. 2 guys.
Yeah, it was 2 guys.
I don't even remember.
It's okay. That
Oh
was
wait,
Maybe it's for the better.
Yeah. Wait, was it 2 or was it 3?
well the dean was there.
Wait, which
What
review was
studio
that?
were we with? Did it last semester?
Like the final?
Last semester, yeah, last semester final
Okay,
with
just name drop and then bleep it.
with.
Yeah, but who were the guys?
Oh, I don't know their names. I'm just saying they were.
Were they just like?
Didn't we
She-
have
like,
a guy who's in Nomos?
Oh yeah, for the other one. I was talking about.
Oh, because we had 2. It was
Group
split.
camps,
It was
yeah.
split.
I was talking about Suburbia.
Mm.
Oh, because the second one was in the small room.
Yeah, sorry.
No, keep going. It's great.
But all right, as we begin to close down a little bit, As the future woman within architecture, what are you looking forward to? Seeing more, as we see more female architects, dominate the space, and also, get their license. What are you looking forward as a female architect? Well, maybe if you want to do architecture or not, sorry. You're free to do as you please. But yeah, what are you looking forward to within the field? Because, we're still here. We're still doing it, so why?
I would say I'm looking forward to working with a community of women that all have like similar interests to me, and also working for communities that I care about, whether or not that's whatever that ends up being.
I think, not to say that it's like gonna become easier, but maybe more possible to want to pursue the things I want to do, and find that it's a more feasible opportunity. I don't know if you guys like understand that, but yeah, to just sort of find the in between of everything you want to do. Yeah, I think that's like the general idea.
I think make connections with either older female architects or your friends who may become designers. Like this like web that you're building. Like I know somewhere in the Sawa archives, there's a list of every person that we've reached out to for our Film Fest that happened 3 years ago, if you want to find it and connect with them. But I think things like that. Like one time for a Sawa event, this is like 2 years ago, I contacted a lady through LinkedIn. No idea who she was. I just wanted to. Our theme for that meeting was to find someone. I think I mentioned this. The women who are not architects, what are they doing right now?
Yeah.
I found someone who is not relatively an architect, but she works for a firm that has architecture, and she does like metaverse stuff. So I was like, ooh.
Oh my God.
I said, hello, this is me on LinkedIn. Then my message went something along the lines of, you don't know who I am really, but this is my connection to you in some ways. Please come to our meeting that's happening next Wednesday at 6:30. And she said yes. So, like easy connect. Like I wouldn't say easy connections, because you do have to make out of your way to connect with people who are either in the same city as you or in the same profession as you. But I think talk to professors that you might not have classes with, but they're doing something really cool, and maybe they'll give you a little connection.
Definitely. And I think as we see more women in the field, we're going to start to see more innovation. Not that we haven't already, but we're going to definitely see more innovation. Like you said, I don't know, architecture to the metaverse.
If you want to get into the metaverse.
Interesting. And do you remember our professor from freshman year who did dance in architecture?
Exactly. And Nike. So
Oh, right.
I'm bringing
I
that.
had a lecture from her recently.
Yeah. So I think as we continue to, challenge architecture as women, we'll see more innovation within the field. And that's what I'm looking forward to, definitely. Being an innovator and being, seeing the innovation as well. I also look forward to my peers over here.
Oh.
Alyssa always gets her work done. You should see how efficient of a worker that
Project manager.
right?
Of Surfobia.
Exactly. And then Roxanne, I always tell you, like, girl, I need you to tell me the tricks.
I think the thing with women is that you guys are so supportive towards each other. Like in your year, I don't know if I can't speak if you guys are like competitive, like I want to fight you tomorrow, but like right now you guys
We
are
could.
like, maybe
Let's go right now.
After the
but you guys are so like, I think women are just very supportive of each other in whichever field that they work in. I'm like, I love you for that.
Right, which
Call me.
now that I think about it, the tension or the competition within our studio is mainly between the males.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's like made up beef.
It's not even real. Like, they're just really competing against themselves. But yeah, that's true. But anyway, once again, I want to thank the wonderful ladies in architecture who are here on the podcast today. Thank you so much for joining. I enjoyed talking with you all, and these are topics that we're continue to, dive into. Really, just breaking down the romanticization of architecture. And I mean, part of the reason it's so romanticized is because of the men as well. Not that that's bad, but really diving deeper and talking about those issues. So once again, thank you all for being here. Any last words to the
Thank
people?
you for being a woman.
Thank you
love
for being
that.
a woman.
Yeah.
Happy Women's Month.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you all for tuning in. If you haven't, the episode's also
for
up
ourselves.
on Spotify, so go ahead and check
Ooh,
that
I
out.
like it.
And leave a comment. Let us know what else you guys would like to hear. But we're looking forward to bringing you more episodes on ARCHITORTURE, the podcast.
50 comments. Like, bring back Alyssa. She was super funny and cool.
Oh yeah, I like Alyssa. She was in the last episode, even though she wasn't there. Like her name was.
She'll be
there.
back. She'll be
Name
back.
dropped me. She told me I wasn't allowed to name drop.
But all right, you all have a good night. Thank you.
Thank you.
Goodbye.